Hello and welcome to the February live stream here for Studio Prey Productions. Waiting to see if it's going to pick up here. I am monitoring the window. Prey Productions here for Studio Prey Productions. Oh wow, that's going to echo. It's going to pick up here.
Alright, I have now muted it.
Okay, now we should all be on the same page and we should no longer be echoing. Life is good. It's nice to have everybody here. I'm showing that we have 3 people in the audience aside from me and Cat the Dragon. She is our, as always, special guest this month. She's very special. There we go. And of course, there is me, your lovely, talented, and above all, humble co-host, Rebecca Mickley. We've got Maya, our other editor. She is on the way at the moment, but she just got out of class, so she's currently flying across campus with the greatest of ease. So, Kat, how are you doing this month?
I'm doing pretty good. I feel pretty good about the work that we just finished today. And I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, I'm actually seeing that Reluctant Warrior can't hear us. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me? Waiting to hear back from the chat. Yay for dead air. I can hear you in one ear. That's unusual. Let me see if I can turn this. I'm using... Alright, can you hear me now?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Huh. I am very sorry for the audio difficulties. I am going to turn up my gain. Is that helping any at all? Okay. I'm using this fancy new microphone. Whoa, we just really redlined that thing out. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm only seeing one channel too, and I don't know why it's doing that. I'm moving it around. Hello? Why? Just watch me bobbing my head. Huh. How strange. I am not sure. Alright, well, I am going to switch my source real quick. Just a moment. Properties. Okay, I just switched to my microphone on my headset. Is that working better for everybody? Oh, Bay Bunny, we always start a little early just to see if we can iron out the cracks. Iron out the issues, not the cracks. Ironing a crack is very hard, Kat. I don't know if you know that.
Mostly it only works if you apply enough heat to melt them so that they even out.
Melting concrete. That's a terrifying idea.
I mean, it works for me.
I suppose it would. But I'm not going for the cheap joke there. I want that to be noted that I am not going for the cheap joke there.
Yeah, you just get them without trying.
Well, yeah, it's natural. I'm a writer, so I'm always going for that lowest common denominator. You know, it's just, it's in the DNA. Oh, Bay Bunny, there's nothing to apologize for. It's always great to have you here. Like I said, I always start like 1 or 2 minutes early, mainly because of the fact that I'm still learning how to use all of the streaming software, and and every now and then things like my mic just go sideways for reasons that I don't really know. But we'll work on that, and hopefully it'll be ready to go by the next time.
Well, we've also got 2 to 3 people streaming on these things every month, which exponentially increases the odds of something going wrong.
I suppose that's true. She can apologize if she wants to, and I cannot stop her.
We can try.
What are you going to do, Kat? Send her a sternly worded letter?
That's a good start.
Very well, very well. Well, okay. Well, what you were talking about earlier, though, before we had all the different technical issues, is that we have completed editing for Rise of the Forgotten. Maya, who will be here in a few moments, is going over the last bits, just giving it a read through for clarity, looking for anything that we missed. But Rise of the Forgotten, ladies and gentlemen, is done. The sequel to Exile's Return after almost 5 years. It's ready for it to come out. Also, if I seem a little snuffly or whatever, I got something in my eye earlier, and it's been plaguing me terribly. And of course, when you get something in your eye, it affects everything. So if I snuffle a little bit, mea culpa. Very sorry.
I may also be a little sniffly and coughy. I'm just getting over a cold, so
that's no excuse. You're over here, even though I can see you over here. So it's like, where are we? So yeah, Rise of the Forgotten, I'm very excited about. Like I said, we've been working on it for years. It's the long-awaited sequel to Exile's Return, and that will be releasing for our patrons only on the website on the 24th. So if you want to read it first, you've got to be a Patreon subscriber. However, today I will be reading the first 3 chapters, not 2, 3, bonus, here at the end of our stream. So that's definitely something you're going to want to be staying in tune for. Sorry, it's like, flustered, I'm nervous. I'm always nervous. Nervous is kind of part of my thing. Nervous is what the bunny do.
There's also one other project that we need to talk about real quick. And I will let you be the one who reveals the title.
What title? What project?
Your first finished manuscript of the year.
Oh, that one. Oh, that thing. I was... No, the work that I just completed is a new science fiction novel set in a new science fiction universe. I guess that kind of follows. Maya likes to tell me sometimes that I am the chair of the redundancy department of redundancy. But this is kind of interesting. It's a far future, cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic science fiction. It's not even set in the Milky Way. It's set in a satellite galaxy, the Large Magellanic Cloud. I think I'm saying that right, but any of my
Magellanic, I'm pretty sure.
We'll find out probably from somebody that's listening in our audience.
Hang on. I guess it is Magellanic. Magellanic, as in Magellan.
Yes. And I was going to say Marco Polo, but that's just right out. Just right out. But it follows the adventures of Jack and Sarian and an artificial intelligence named Sullivan. And, oh, I think I hear, yep, we have a Maya Sora. Everybody, let's all stare at her and make her uncomfortable. Hello, Maya. It's good to see you.
Hi, Maya.
Well, so far, so good. She's either terrified or her camera's frozen. One or the two.
It's probably honest.
Wow, you're sounding a bit digitized there, buddy. Oh, let's see.
Can you all see me?
We can see you, but we can just barely hear you. You sound a bit digitized.
Hold on.
That's exciting.
Yeah, this is just riveting television.
Sound any better now?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Sweet.
Obey Bunny says Maya's cover is blown. Now we know that Matrix is real.
Well, I guess then we should all follow the white Obey Bunny. That was just a terrible joke. That was a terrible joke.
That was bad.
Well, it was so bad I couldn't even give you a pity laugh, so.
Luckily I have my audience here. They love me. They respect me. At least love me. I hope. But
they probably wouldn't be here if they didn't love you, but
true enough. True enough. It's either that or they just came to watch the circus act that happens every month. One of the two, right?
Little of both.
Let's be honest. It's definitely.
It's definitely what?
It's definitely both.
It's
Let's be
definitely
completely honest.
both. They love me and they want to see the circus act. Okay, that I can totally get behind.
Well, who wouldn't want to see a bunny ringmaster in the trained dragon?
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to call out that Speedy 876 is in the house. They are our amazingly talented final proofing and edit team in Jamaica. They just completed an amazing speed run of Rise of the Forgotten. I just want to apologize to them for any kind of strife we caused in the office over the fighting over of the manuscript. I have heard things. And we're also being joined by Shimon the Dragon. Shimon the Dragon is a $10 Alarian Patreon supporter. It's great to have him here and have his support. So welcome, Shimon. It's wonderful to have you here. Now, Speedy, they just completed a run-through of Rise. And just like with Dawnbreak, they knocked it out of the park. There is no greater edit team that I know of outside of Speedy 876. They make all of our jobs collectively so much easier. We have, of course, a Crackerjack edit team here in the studio with Kat and Maya, but as far as outside source goes, they don't come any better than Speedy.
I feel like we also have to apologize to Speedy for, I understand they had to shut down the office and stop taking other work to finish our book because it took that much to get Rise of the Forgotten up to speed.
My typos are a thing of legend, and I understand that I'll be getting a letter from Speedy's lawyer in the next few days about therapy bills. For their editors, because it's just that bad,
So thank you for everything that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm actually told that if you go outside on a clear night while they're editing my work, you can hear on the wind the screaming.
The screaming, the crying.
Woe and
the threats of
lamentations. Becca has finished another manuscript. But the fans are happy, and so that's the important bit, right? We all suffer for them.
But in all seriousness, they do really great work, and I feel like our work is that much better for having them on the team. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I don't know what we'd do without them. I really don't.
And they said actually it's the excitement laughs.
Yeah. Oh, and Reluctant Warriors, like, you'd probably be too stubborn to let anyone else edit their work. On the other hand, they will suffer for their art. Well, let me tell you, if you trust anyone with your work, trust Speedy. Seriously. Hashtag not sponsored, by the way. I know I'm sappy, but they are accurate, they're fair, and they'll leave you little notes that will encourage you as well as correct you. They have been so kind to me with what they leave, and I love their comments. You know, when Snow Dawkins was getting ready to go into space for the first time for her shuttle test, I remember Speedy left me a note. Was like, "Oh wow, this little rabbit's about to blast itself off into space in the shuttle. This is so cool." You know, it was just it just it makes it that much more special.
Right. So let's see. We've covered Space Station Z. We've schmoozed with our outside editing team. We've covered the release date for Rise of the Forgotten, and
We should probably talk more about how Rise is going to be released on the website. Because Dawnbreak was free. Dawnbreak was free to anybody. You could go to the website, you could sign up, and it would just be there. With Rise of the Forgotten, in order to read the content, you do need to be a Patreon subscriber. So if you have not subscribed to our Patreon, please go to our website, click on that little Patreon button up on the side there, and please consider, if you would, just $2 a month gives you access to our entire library of content that we are releasing at that time. And that money, it's not so I can buy a new Lamborghini. It's not so that I can, fly first class, in my own cabin on an amazing airline. It's to do things like help Maya, who's in college, to help Kat and I, do food, buy, pay the bills, pay for covers. All of these things. We are a small grassroots studio, and your $2 a month just means so much. And so if you can, and if you would like to be a supporter of the magic, as we like to say, please consider going to our Patreon, donating that $2 a month, and, coming on board. Now, if you don't want to, or if you can't, that's fine. Just you showing up to read is honestly enough, and it's a greater honor than I could ever imagine. The fact that outside people want to read my work means so much to me. I do want you to know that it will be available on Amazon at the end of its release cycle, just like Dawnbreak was, for, I believe, $3. But if you want it early, if you want it before, I think it's the May, maybe June projected release on Amazon, you do need to be a part of the Final Draft Club. And it is the $2 a month on Patreon. If you want to give more, that's great. If you want to help personally finance my life, heck, I'm not going to stop you. But it only takes $2 a month to get that content. All right, commercial over.
Shameless self-plug.
I do believe that all that leaves us with is the reading of those first 3 chapters.
Well, I suppose. Let's see, how far are we in so far? I don't know. Let's see here. We have been live for 18 minutes, these poor souls. Before we get into the reading for Rise, I want to talk about something a little bit special, and that's who Rise is dedicated to. Now, Rise of the Forgotten is dedicated to my grandfather. Now, my grandfather is also a storyteller, and I honestly think I get a lot of my creativity and my drive to create from him. Now, he's never written professionally. He's written for a few journalistic articles for a few Shrine publications and things like that, but he was a salesman for his entire career. He started off in the Air Force, and once he got out of the Air Force, he went into sales. He traveled the United States and the world, selling all number of things. He started a business in Puerto Rico and lived in the Caribbean for years. But the one thing that makes my grandfather such an amazing salesman, and I think amazing friend, and just person in general, is that he is never without a story. And he's quick, and he's affable, and he can just capture your attention in an instant with a story. And I got to grow up with that example, and it heavily influenced me. He could walk into a room of strangers, and within 10 minutes he's talking about, oh, there was this one time in Atlantic City, or there was this Nash Rambler that he traveled the country in the late 50s and early 60s. And he hated that car with a passion, and he wished that car would die. But as if that car was sent from the infernal regions just to torment him, it wouldn't. And so his company would not buy him a new one. So every day he's in this archaic Nash Rambler, and he said it was uncomfortable and it was hot, but unfortunately it was reliable.
That's amazing.
He said he did everything he could think of short of driving it off a bridge to kill it, and the car was just like, bring it. Would not die. And you see,
That sounds like an amazing car.
Oh, yeah, he said that if he dies and he wakes up in a Nash Rambler, he'll know he's in hell. So...
You sure it wasn't a Toyota Corolla?
It was actually before the days of the Toyota Corolla. This is the late 50s. Now, allow me to be a bit of a history nerd here. The Nash and the Rambler Corporation joined forces in the late 50s. And Mitt Romney's father, actually, was one of the original CEOs of Nash Rambler. And they actually were in a time when cars were boats, when they were land yachts, all kinds of stuff like that. The Rambler line specifically, they were compact, small, affordable, easy to work on economy cars. And that was their niche. And it was actually the success of the Rambler line that led to things like the Ford Falcon and a few others.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually really quite interesting. Mr. Romney of Rambler, actually, I can't think of his name at the top of my head. He actually left because he wanted to go into politics, and he became governor after that. And that was the beginning of the Romney political dynasty here in America. So, fun, right? Because that's why you show up to this stream. You want to hear weird car history. Yeah.
Well, we got to hear a story about your grandfather, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. And, this is a man, he grew up in the Depression. He was a teenager during World War II. He actually tried to enlist, but for some reason they wouldn't let, like, a 14-year-old go to war. Just...
Gee, I wonder.
But he ended up serving during the Korean conflict on the island of Japan in the U.S. Air Force, which was, a very honorable thing. His brother, his brother, actually shot down the first enemy plane over Korea from a ball turret, and I believe it was a B-29. You can actually look that up. He has mentioned Bud Mickley. So there's homework, class, if you want it.
This is what happens when
yeah,
when a history nerd does a live stream.
Yep. George W. Romney, Nega Mewtwo, you are my hero. Thank you for jolting my janky brain.
See, that degree does come in handy.
It does. In fact,
all that student debt means that you can give people who didn't ask history lessons on things they're never going to use.
Well, speaking seriously for just a moment, we're still showing that we're up and broadcasting here. Let me know if anybody else is experiencing crash issues. So far, it's still working over here.
I'm still seeing it on my end.
And I'm not frozen. I'm not going or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we can
Uh,
see you just fine.
okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you, team. Um, where was I? Oh, yes. Speaking seriously for a moment, I do have a liberal arts degree in religious studies with a minor in history. Studied very hard for it. And when I graduated, I was able to take my diploma and see the special words that are inscribed on every liberal arts degree diploma. Do you want fries with that? And it's a very proud moment for me. And I decided that I wanted to starve for my art and became a writer instead. Uh,
See, this is the second time I've heard that joke now,
yes.
and it's still just as funny.
It's also tragic, and I'm afraid that I just completely alienated everyone else that have a liberal arts degree on this stream. It's like, I have $80,000 in student debt, and now this jerk is insulting me. But hey, random
No.
trivia is great at parties.
See, the best part of this is that you now work with somebody who just skipped the $80,000 in student debt and got a ministerial license without having to go to college.
To quote Maya, salt.
Oh.
What am I being quoted on? Sorry.
Salt.
Obey Bunny says, my associate's degree gives me the high honor of working at Walmart as a cashier. Good times.
There you go.
Wholeheartedly agree there.
Believe to achieve. Work your butt off at higher education, and you too can get a minimum wage job that will barely keep you fed. Speaking of which, Maya's studying to be a teacher.
Maybe not. I'm doubting that idea.
We're paying you
Regardless,
so much.
still a
You're
music
looking at
degree.
being a. We're paying you so much. You're looking to be our editor full time, huh?
Hey,
Saber of the Sixth
wouldn't
says
say
salt
no.
and fries are good together. That's a good point. So you can pour that salt on the fries that you'll be serving at McDonald's,
Yes.
which is where I worked.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Well-
I mean, I'm working on a music degree right now. That's still probably going to be working in a McDonald's somewhere for a while.
I hope
Probably.
not. I hope not. Maya plays the trombone though, but we won't hold that against her.
And,
Well,
and let the trombone puns just roll in. I'm used to it.
In a perfect world, this will take off, and we'll all be fabulously wealthy, and Snowy will be extremely famous, and you'll decide to give up your teaching, your dreams of making a subsistence living as a teacher, and just be an editor full time.
Wow, and I thought I wrote
would like-
fiction. I mean, I hope so, Kat.
I would like to point out my girlfriend who is in the chat with the joke eternal boner degree. Hi, babe. I love you.
Oh, crystal rainbows. But
Obey
seriously,
Bunny
for
wants to be adopted by royalty. I would also like that. Hey, additional trivia that has the same. This is something that has the same chance as being successful with a degree as a teacher. If I want to say about 830 people all simultaneously drop dead, my uncle would be the King of England.
So what you're telling me is if there's a nuclear apocalypse and your uncle survives.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Reluctant Warrior, thank you. Thank you so much for picking up a copy of Dawnbreak. I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please be sure to leave a great review on Amazon. That helps more than you know.
Even if you don't enjoy it, leave a 5-star review anyway, because we'd really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. I'll take whatever I can get at this point. I'm shameless.
Because, I mean, it is objectively a great book, and hopefully everybody has good taste and recognizes that, but if they don't, they should give it good reviews anyway.
Well, Nega, Rise is coming out, at least on the studio side, on the 24th. If you only knew the power of the studio side. Hashtag copyright infringement. We're going for it.
Now that means it'll be on Amazon in May, you said?
May, maybe June. Rise is huge. Rise was like 80,000 words, somewhere in there. So it's almost
Something like that.
Yeah, it is a really big book. So
In the meantime, the next book I'm going to start editing will be Ghost of the Nightmare Gods.
that is correct. That is correct.
Mhm.
Well, guys, believe it or not, we just hit 30 minutes, so I should probably get to the reading of Rise.
Now would be time to start reading.
Are you guys ready to
Reluctant Warrior wants to know how long it took to write Rise.
Oh God.
I know the answer to this question, so.
Rise of the Forgotten. I wrote the first 50,000 words for NaNoWriMo in 2014. Then I hit a wall. My confidence went to crap. Let's just be honest. And I honestly considered giving up writing for a while. And so it didn't get touched for almost 2 years.
Was that the 50,000 words that got you the copy of Scrivener?
Yes, I made my 50,000 words. I got a copy of Scrivener. And for my efforts, for like 40% off, 50% off, by the way, Scrivener, hashtag not sponsored, is an excellent program. But after Rise, my life got stressful, things got really hard, and I didn't really pick up the pen for 2 years after that 50,000 words got written. Now, I did it in 20 days. I wrote that. It was an insane amount of output. But for 2 years, it just kind of sat fallow. And then I met someone that you all may know named Kat the Dragon. And she read Exile's Return, and she really started to encourage me to write again. And I actually, a few months later, through another friend named Pike, I started writing Ghosts of the Nightmare Gods. Then Whispers Beyond the Veil, Ghosts of the Nightmare Gods sequel, and then I started to look at Rise again. And when I really started to look at Rise again critically, this is late 2017, maybe early 2018. I threw out 15,000 words right off the top. I went right back to 35,000. And then I wrote the rest of it in about a month and a half. And it's amazing. I had it all planned out. I had things written out. I had pages of documents. Hardly used any of it in that second act. The story diverted wildly from what I planned. And that's where I really learned as a writer that you have to let the story be what the story wants to be. Now, I've always kind of paid lip service to that idea before. But Rise really taught me that lesson, because it wasn't until I let go of what I wanted for the story and I let it evolve naturally on its own that it really came. And so the short answer, the long-winded answer, is that it took me 4 years to write Rise.
And it turned out to be a really fantastic story. And the characters knew where they wanted the story to go. And they tell you, and then the rest writes itself. Which is part of how your output is as fast as it is.
Yep. I let the story be what it wants to be. I let the characters tell me what they want to do. I am not the boss.
And it turned into such an amazing story that I read its entirety, 80,000 words, in less than 2 days.
Yeah,
It drew me in that much.
Maya forgot what sleep was.
Part of that is just that you're impressive, but also it's a really good story.
Guys, my goodness, my ego can only get so big here, you know. Lego, my ego.
It's okay. I have a fork.
But seriously, speaking seriously, I would not be here writing, producing, probably even live streaming if it wasn't for Cat the Dragon.
Oh.
And that is 100% honest.
I made a friend, and this friend had a book, and I read the book, and it was legitimately one of the best books I've ever read. Except that it was terribly edited.
I didn't have Speedy back then. I didn't have YouTube back then. It was just me and a publisher. And those were rocky days. Those were rocky days. I look at how far we've come.
I read that book, and my immediate reaction was exactly that. This is one of the best books I've ever read. But I would like to have your editor for dinner because it is really poorly edited. And it was a year later, you asked me if I was serious about wanting to take a crack at it myself, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I'm like, you've been complaining about the editing, and I'm like, do you want to do something about it? And you went, yeah. And you probably never assumed that I was going to do anything, and the next thing you knew, you had access.
Mm-hmm.
But
and then I was editing Ghosts of the Nightmare Gods, which I have already finished the first pass, so I think we'll be able to get that ready much faster, but I'm not sure yet, because again, it was the first thing that I'd ever professionally edited, so it probably needs a lot of help. Speedy, it's probably not going to be as pretty as Rise of the Forgotten.
It's also an urban fantasy horror. It's one of the darker things I've written, which if you've read any of my other stuff, that might be saying something. So
it's darker than Dawnbreak.
Mm-hmm. Incredibly darker. It when I was reading through it the first time, just had to put my computer down, sit back a bit, and just think, what? That was pretty much exactly what happened.
It's so good. I love horror stuff.
It's incredible.
That, and you absolutely hated one of the main characters. Like, you really hated him.
I really hated him. I wanted him to die in the next act. Mm-hmm. That was how much I hated him.
Well,
but now that we're up to book 5 in that series, what do you think of him now?
See here, Snowy, you are one of the few people that can make me go from absolutely despising a character to loving him. I blame you.
But anyway, I don't have my Tears of My Reader's mug, but we're getting towards 38 minutes now, and I'm sure these people have lives. So
the character arc is really impressive, and I look forward to when that whole series is out and people get to see the progression of his character and his growth, because I think you did an amazing job with it. And now it's time to start reading Rise. Go. Bunny, go.
Bunny, go. Okay, let me see here. Let's see here. Rise of the Forgotten. Fear, panic, the noise, The smell. Wait, that's not right, is it?
No, that was Exiles, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's right. Oh my goodness, what have I done? Let me see. Okay, seriously this time.
Now time to start reading the correct book.
Yes. Rise of the Forgotten by Rebecca Mickley. Edited by Kat Luck. Illustrated by Sarah Cody. Published by Studio Prey. This work is dedicated to my grandfather, a man who has supported me endlessly throughout my life. I would have never found the confidence to strike out on my own and pursue my dreams as a writer were it not for his example and his support. I love you. May this dedication stand through the ages in testament to all you have done for me. Chapter 1. Neural activity detected. Initiating log. Erebus Industries Ascension Protocol online. I found myself in a familiar hell, standing in the corridor of a ship. It seemed to stretch on forever. Far off in the distance I heard a voice. As the ship pitched and groaned, fear seized me, and I took off in a run. There was a darkness just behind me, gloomy and ominous, blacking out the corridor. I felt its chill nip at my hind paws as I tore down the passageway, my paws aching as I caught this toe or that in a grate. "Come on, Snow! There isn't much time!" The voice coaxed me on. It sounded so familiar. "Charlie!" I ran faster, hoping to get to the source, when out of nowhere a piercing noise invaded the dream. My eyes shot open as fatigue weighed upon me like an anchor. I shook it off. It was the same damn nightmare. Again. My ears drooped almost instinctively as the pain hit. A wave of nausea rocked me to one side, and then a splitting, burning fire seemingly erupted just below my ears. My vision went blurry for a moment, and I closed my eyes, waiting for the sensation to pass. Almost as suddenly as it hit, it began to subside, only to be replaced again by the needling tone. "Yes, Bridge! This is the ambassador. Go ahead." I rubbed at my aching temples. It was already shaping up to be some morning. "You requested a notification as soon as we were ready to jump," a matter-of-fact, militarily efficient voice reported over the intercom. "Understood. Has my aide been notified?" I asked. "Yes, ma'am. As you instructed." "Very well. Inform the Night Watch commander I'll be on deck in an hour. In the meantime, radio Earth and Nest governments to inform them of our position." "Roger that. Bridge out." The intercom went silent, and I stretched and then settled in the cool dark of my quarters, clinging on to the last few moments of peace in what already promised to be a very busy day. The door to my quarters slid open, and a feminine yet resonant voice called out, "Good morning, boss," just as she hit the lights. I scrunched up my eyes and wiggled back against the wall, my brain reminding me with gentle stabs of pain that I had already had a headache this morning, and was not afraid to inflict another. My vision slowly adjusted, revealing the form of my assistant, Jill Saito, a morphic black cat. A. You could have knocked. And B. You're supposed to warn me when you do that. Well, where's the fun in that? I gotta keep you on your toes, after all, and it's not like I haven't seen you naked. Ha, ha, I replied. Now, before we do any more talking, please get the headache medicine. Still having problems, boss? I could hear the worry in her tone. Not as many. I think they're getting better, I lied. Just aftershocks from a minor one this morning. I saw her look me over concernedly before disappearing to the bathroom and returning with 2 small pills. The headaches were not getting better, but every checkup I'd had showed I was healthy, so I just stopped complaining. There was no point, and I was too busy anyway. The last thing I needed were news reports doubting my competency again. She gave me an additional look of concern before surrendering to the unmovable wall of my stubbornness. I have the day's orders of events ready if you want to review 'em, she said, changing the subject. I looked it over as the early morning riot in my head began to subside, giving me room to focus on the day at hand. We have the interview with the press at 1000 hours, Jill spoke up, going from memory. Again? I read over that particular bullet point and could swear I smelled rotten fish. All praise the 24-hour news cycle. Well, for once, they're actually on our side, boss. Cut 'em some slack. It's first contact with a new species. Yes, and remind me to thank Darnak for insisting that this honored one does the introductions, I said, sarcasm dripping from my muzzle, as my aide set out a light breakfast of fruit and juice. I looked at it sourly. Don't be so cranky. There's a reason he relies on you so much, she replied good-naturedly. I'm not cranky. I am in deep protest against 0530 wake-ups, informed Central Command. Do you want that sent out as a press release or as an intergovernmental bulletin? She replied. Smartass. I lapsed into silence and tried to mentally prepare myself for the day ahead. I had been the special ambassador to the Mendians for 9 years now, and had numerous press blitz days under my belt, but I still felt the butterflies. And it honestly terrified me even after all this time. I had simply gotten better at managing it. I nibbled at my breakfast, but felt no great pull of appetite, more a begrudging acceptance that I needed to eat. This day would only be worse, hungry. My morning descended into a deceptive, meditative calm as I devoured the fruit. Time and forward motion seemed to fall to the back seat as I focused on the task at hand. You have to keep going. A quiet whisper in my subconscious urged me on. We better get moving, Snow, Jill said quietly, in seeming agreement with the whisper, snapping me out of my reflection. Roger that. I raced through a short but reliable routine, which was one of the perks of being a small, fluffy creature. The reflection briefly crossed my mind as I wiggled into my harness and then felt it snug home tight, eliciting a small squeak. Looking in a mirror to make sure I passed muster, I hopped out only to get a second confirmation from Jill before we formed ranks and set out to face the day. The trip was much shorter now than when I had started my career aboard her. The Danube placed officers of higher rank closer towards the bridge, and I was her ambassador now and flag officer by a special UEA act. In many ways, this was where both of our journeys started, mine and Humanity's. The ship of first contact, converted into a diplomatic vessel. For 8 years now, this ship had been my home. We very rarely saw Earth for more than a few days, spending most of our time en route ferrying messages and having conferences between the Nest and Earth governments. I suppose in some ways, my life had come full circle. We approached the door to the bridge, emblazoned now with the EDC diplomatic seal, and Jill looked down at me. Ready, boss? As much as I'm going to get. All right? Let's make our entrance. The doors slid back before me and revealed the bridge of the Danube. It was crammed with reporters and officers, all in dress uniform. No sooner did the ensign call out, "Attention! Ambassador on deck!" than a flurry of flashes briefly blinded me. The brilliant washout of bright white light faded and my vision returned to normal, with my headache now set to overdrive. I wanted to be sick, but I didn't have the time. Pushing back against the nausea, I continued. At ease. Members of the press, I would like to officially welcome you to the bridge of the EDCS Danube on the day of this historic jump. As you know, 1 month ago we received a message from the Mendians that in accordance with the Treaty of Light and in the spirit of greater understanding, a new gate would come active today. The EDCS Danube will soon jump to an uncharted system known as Corvaldia, where we will make contact with a new species. The room erupted in an ever-growing murmur of shouted questions. Jill stood in front of me and addressed the press. While the ambassador is appreciative of the response of the press and the curiosity of all those at home, the Danube is still a working ship, and we do have a jump to complete. Please, we ask that you hold all questions until the briefing at 1000 hours, Universal Galactic Time. I took my station as flag officer. My position was largely ceremonial, but today was all about diplomacy, not reality. Ops, retract the blast shutters, I ordered. Slowly, the noise of well-maintained machinery hummed through the ship, and the large metal covers that shielded the bridge of the Danube retracted, revealing the large Mendean gate just beyond. Helm, check status of Higgsfield manipulator and transmit our codes to the gate, came my next order. Roger that. Higgsfield is within tolerance and the gate has accepted the codes. Ambassador, all stations report green. We can jump on your command, Helm replied. Take us in, I ordered. The Danube began slowly moving closer and closer towards the gate. A familiar flash of brilliant light washed over the ship, then gave way to an impressive darkness. For a moment, it seemed as if we were forever anchored to the void. Then a welcome but violent blast of multichromatic light rippled across the hull, and we were back in normal space amongst different stars. All stop! Post-jump! Status report! I ordered. It was a textbook jump. We are stable and at the rendezvous coordinates. Ambassador, we have received a message from Darnak and the Mendean Council. They welcome us to the Corvaldian system and request a confirmation of our current position. Transmit our position and prepare for Mendean arrival. 30 seconds went by, then a minute. Ambassador, sensors are detecting a massive energy buildup less than a kilometer off our starboard position. And that would be Darnak, I said, as the House Lethine completed her leap into regular space. Operations, rig our systems for Mendean escort and silence those proximity alarms. Roger that. Entering macros into the system. Program Darnak 1 is online, maintaining 1 kilometer distance. Something itched just behind my eyes, driving me mad for the briefest of moments before ceasing. Hello, Shifted One of Earth. We are not too close this time, are we? I picked up Darnak through the link. We just reset our proximity alarms, but thank you for not jumping in at half a click this time. We're still trying to pry the chief engineer off the bulkhead from the last time you did that. We will soon teach him courage, he chuckled through the link. Or severe PTSD, whichever comes first. You know we cannot reveal the Great Link, Shifted One. We must be this close to facilitate contact. Of course, it's good to hear you again, old friend. It's always good to connect with this honored one of Earth. It's always good to escape UEA bureaucracy and be here amongst the stars, where things make sense, I replied. You begin to sound more and more like a Mendean, with your search for simplicity, Shifted One. A very fuzzy Mendean. He chuckled through the link. Stuff it, Space Snake. What would you know anyway? I replied, mirthful. I have missed your aggressive jocularity, Shifted One. It's called being a smartass. Boss, you still with us? Jill snapped me out of my focus. Suddenly my head screamed and I felt woozy and rocked in place. As quickly as it came, it ended. Sorry, I was lost in thought a moment. This damn cat keeps waking me up at revelry. I shot her a conspiratorial glance. She made a few notes on her clipboard. I'll remember that one, boss. I'm sure you will. Just remember, I have no shoes for you to crap in, I whispered, and Jill shot me a look followed by a stifled chuckle. I turned back to official business before I could dig a larger hole. Helm, coordinate with the Mendean bridge and set a course for Corval Prime. Standard cruising speed. No need to be in a rush. I turned and addressed the press corps. All right, the jump went according to plan. Everything looks good and we are currently in the process of setting a course for Corval Prime. Our Mendean allies will accompany us and facilitate first contact when we enter orbit in 3 weeks. Ambassador, Daniel Rogan of the Intergalactic Daily here. Do you know why the Corvaldians neglected to send a delegation to the gate and are instead waiting until we are well within their territory to facilitate introductions? A very good question. Please be sure to ask it again during the press briefing at 10 a.m. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, I have other business that demands my immediate attention. I bowed and handed command back to the Night Commander for the last 30 minutes of his shift. He nodded, and I made my way back towards my quarters. Chapter 2. Guys having fun over there?
So far, I'm enjoying it, and I've already read it 4 times.
Well, that's groovy.
I'm liking it.
Nice.
It's always a joy to have your writing.
The check's in the mail.
Technically, we get it emailed to us and sent on PayPal.
All right. Well, it looks like the people in the chat are happy too. So we'll just go on with chapter 2.
Got 2 more chapters to go.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
1,000 hours came quickly, and it seemed that before I knew it, I was in front of a podium full of eager and hungry reporters. I supposed it was time to feed the dogs. The ambassador will now take your questions, Jill said, standing beside me. The room erupted with an eagerness seen only in those who were drowning and other similarly desperate people. Hands went up and the room strummed with an intense murmur. I motioned with a paw to a reporter I was somewhat friendly with, hoping for a softball question. Daniel Highfield with the Lunar Daily. Go ahead. Do you feel that first contact with the Corvaldians is taking needed attention away from Morphic concerns over the Farthest Star Act? I quickly gave up hopes on there being any easy questions in this briefing. I have already made my position very clear on the proposed act before UEA Parliament, but let me state again that any act that forcibly relocates Morphics while, at the same time, disenfranchises them of UEA citizenship is in blatant violation of our right to self-determination, which is protected under UEA Charter. Next question, please. Perhaps something about our mission to Corval Prime. The murmur returned as the hands shot up. I decided to get it over with and pointed at the Space News correspondents. Alice Bolter, Space News. You mentioned that Morphic rights are protected under UEA Charter, yet time and again the UEA Parliament has failed to pass any act affirming Morphic citizenship, essentially leaving it in a gray area. Isn't it true that the colonial citizenship being offered under the act would finally give the Morphics a firm legal standing in human society that would only allow for better integration? I sighed. Secondary citizenship is not citizenship, and it's important to remember that the Charter states our rights, but does not grant them. Freedom is the natural state for all sapient life, and the UEA Charter stands strong because of that truth. Anything that removes a Morphic from direct involvement in their government is a step back, not a step forward. I contend that the Farthest Star Act is as bad for humans as it is for Morphics, for this and a myriad of other reasons. That will be the last question I address today on the Farthest Star Act. I have made my position quite clear. Excuse me. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I noticed Daniel Rogan raise his hand and I quickly called on him, trying to shift the tone of the press briefing. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I would like to relate my question from earlier. Do you know why the Corvaldians neglected to send a delegation to the gate and are instead waiting until we are well within their territory to facilitate introductions? An excellent question. I have raised this with our Mendian allies as well, and they have informed me that it is customary among the Corvaldians to welcome new species once they have reached their home planet. They are, according to the Mendians, a post-conflict society and have many customs that may seem odd to us. His hand shot up again. Just a quick clarification. What do you mean by post-conflict? From what I have been told by our Mendian allies, they have gone a millennia without a war. The press corps fell briefly silent at that and then erupted again. Ambassador! Alice Bolter near shouted out and the room fell quiet. The predators were acknowledging their alpha. Yes, Alice, go ahead, I said, as diplomatic but dismissive as possible. You say the Corvaldians are a post-conflict race, but similar could be said of the Mendians, yet still Apocalypse Day happened. How do you respond to organizations like Earth First that feel that the UEA is putting a premium on diplomatic relations and technology over the possible survival of our species? She was wasting no time going for the jugular. I apologize real quick for being sniffly. I've been having an issue with my eye today. Just getting that out there. And now back to the story.
Which is a complete non sequitur for Snow to be saying right now. But.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to break that up. But anyway, back to the story. I would like to state without equivocation that the concerns of Earth First are unfounded. We are approaching the 20-year anniversary of the Treaty of Gates, and Apocalypse Day was also almost a decade ago. Our Mendian allies have shown their willingness to coexist peacefully with Earth through the Treaty of Light of 2082, as well as a continued diplomatic presence represented by this office. Thank you. There will be no more questions today, I said, and hopped down, making a quick exit. Annoyed, boss? Jill said as I made a direct and deliberate path for my quarters. Just the same old bullshit. They aren't even bothering to rewrite their questions anymore, I replied sourly. Their kind of prejudice is a symptom of ignorance and arrogance, boss. I doubt they really care about delivery, she said as her tail twitched. Yeah, back on the Rome, the Admiral liked to joke about spacing reporters. 10 years into this, and I finally understand he wasn't joking. I imagine most governmental types end up feeling that way. Don't let it get to you, she said as we arrived at my quarters. Yeah, but you have to admit, a special report from the inside of a decompressing airlock would be a hell of a scoop. Yeah, but messy though. Remember, we're supposed to be the open-minded ones. I know, I said, waving a paw dismissively. Just give me an hour. Give me about an hour to collect. It's already built into the schedule, boss. Roger that, I said as I slipped into my quarters alone. The doors slid shut with a similar feel to those of a prison cell, and for a moment everything seemed so confining. A sudden urge of desperation seized me, and I pulled and bit at my harness till its nanocord reasoned out my fumbling and loosened. It crumpled to the floor and stood there, and I stood there, shivering and alone, wanting nothing more than to be done with all of this. Some days the weight just felt so heavy. My mind drifted to Charlie, as it often did in these lonely times, to that one special night where we finally became friends, where I finally admitted the growing bond. I could almost feel him comfort me. Hang in there, little hare. You're stronger than you know. I had spent the last 10 years desperately hoping he was right. The fact of the matter was that no matter the strength I was purported to have, or the leverage that I had within the government, things were not getting better. Each year, Earth First took more seats in Parliament, and each year the tension seemed to grow. Now they were trying to shove the Farthest Star Act down our throats. My head ached with sudden pain and weariness, and I weakly sagged against the wall. The Farthest Star Act. A clever bit of legislation titled after a famous line I had made in one of my first speeches years ago. We mostly called it Project Ark because the principle was largely the same. The UEA was angling to strip Morphics of both property and citizenship and then use us to colonize worlds they didn't want to expend human life on. Of course, that wasn't the pitch they used. Instead, they billed it as a pathway to integration and a noble sacrifice for those Morphics that desired peace. I had fought it for years, but was unable to gain any ground, and now it was finally expected to pass. Treaty of Gates, or any other consequence be damned. It was that part that was the most troubling. As Earth First claimed more seats, the personality of the Parliament began to change. Originally, the UEA had sought to do the Treaty of Gates proper honor, but Apocalypse Day poisoned the well, seemingly in spite of the best efforts of Darnak and myself. Now the Farthest Star Act was on the verge of passing, and it appeared that the hope of the new Earth First Parliament was to use the Morphics to wedge open the gates when the Mendians had every reason to withdraw. They were confident the Mendians would never abandon the shifted ones of Earth. It was cold but efficient math, because I had to concede that they had a point. The Mendians might be 1,000 years ahead in terms of technology, but I had seen no force in the universe so treacherous or apt at politics as the human species. The Mendians were simply outclassed in that respect, technology or no. 10 years of fighting, 10 years of working with some of the very people that helped cause Apocalypse Day, and we were about to lose. And lose big. It haunted me that somehow all this work and loss could come to nothing. There were just some days where it didn't pay to get out of bed. I was just getting settled in and enjoying my hour of depressive respite from the drudgery and glamour of a life in the civil service when a lone red light with an emphatic and evanescent beeping began to demand the attention of my brain that felt about 2 steps from AWOL. I groaned and considered heading to the escape pods for a moment. Only to
Apologize for that.
It's okay. I'll take it out of your check. Only to dismiss the idea with a mental grin. It was obviously too late to run anyway. Wearily, and with the hope that only procrastination brings, I dragged myself towards the red light. I couldn't even get 1 hour to myself, I thought, and finally surrendered. Whoever was calling wasn't about to give up without an answer. I yawned and stretched, letting my paw lay down lazily on the surface. Some kind of electronic wizardry happened, and soon I was piloting the computer with my shiny new neural interface. Authenticated. Welcome, Snow Dawkins, UEA Special Ambassador to the Mendians. I always startled when it kicked in. It was a new sensation, adapting to data streaming across my field of vision instead of a screen. These new systems were state-of-the-art, allowing for direct interface between a user's brain and the machine with no need for any kind of physical interface or input. After enduring the quality of my typewritten reports for years, the UEA near tripped over itself to upgrade my systems, and the Danubes to facilitate this new tech. The joke was on them, though. They were still bad. Mainly because I just didn't give a shit. They didn't want me to write reports anyway. They wanted me to talk to the Mendians. An augmented reality overlay filled my vision. A very serious, secure transmission request was flashing in the upper right-hand corner of my sight. I tapped it, and then the communication system filled the overlay. This interface was nothing if not slick. I held up my paw, and a massive jumble of numbers and letters appeared in an entry box just to the left of me. Connection established. A familiar face appeared before me, almost as if he was standing there. John Harper, thank God! I thought it was someone important, I said, deadpan. Nice to see you too, Fluffy. How's space? He quipped. About the same. I ignored the obvious, playful dig. We're about 3 weeks out from Corval Prime. The press corps are feral as usual, and I was just discussing with Jill the possibility of spacing some of them out of the airlock. You want me to shoot her? He replied. My battles with Space News reporters were apparently becoming legend. At ease, sailor, I said, the banter taking my mind briefly from the stress. This sailor happens to be the UEA Chief of Ops, former commander of the Second Fleet. Yes, and the ambassador happens to not give a tinker's damn, I giggled. Is this just a social call? I wish it was. As you know, this is Russia's last term. Yeah, I know, and good riddance, I replied. He isn't going quietly into that good night, though, Harper replied with a tone of worry. What do you mean? Well, he's been meeting with Earth First leaders a lot, but also with a shadowy corporate type. Do you know much about Erebus APEP? Only that his corporation pretty much supplies the world with technology. These new nanitic upgrades are from one of their labs. Yeah, but if Erebus APEP and his corporation are making so much money off of adaptive nanitic tech for Morphix, why has he been bankrolling Russia's campaign and meeting with his Earth First minders? I don't know, but I don't like it. I take it this is all preliminary at the moment, I said, a tone of worry creeping into my voice. The meetings are happening. I've got some friends in intelligence that have been keeping an eye on things since the attempted coup. The one thing we can't find, though, is the connection. Between this and the Farthest Star Act, there has to be an angle here that we aren't seeing. I thought I would reach out to you and let you know to be careful. I will, John. Remember, the Danube is my ship now. Her officers are all handpicked by me. This may just be the safest place in the entire UEA for me, I said, confident in what had become my home. Or the most dangerous. Just don't let your guard down, he said. The weight of his concern dragged on my soul like an anchor. Understood. Have your assistant contact Jill. We will meet face to face when I get back to Earthside, and we can talk about this in depth. And thanks, I replied. Roger that. Harper out. I sighed and logged off the system, my vision returning to normal, and quickly made my way back to my small pad and blankets in the corner. Working down into the blankets, their familiarity and comfort, a salve for my soul, I was just starting to drift. I tried to forget, at least for a little while, that I was anything but a simple civilian, relaxing in her quarters. Just as my mind began to embrace the welcome fiction, the door slid open, light flooding in from the hall, a silhouetted, morphic black cat standing against the backdrop of the oppressive, invading illuminescence. Boss, rise and shine. Hour is up. She said, with way too much positivity and cheer. Perfect, I groaned. Well, there it is. Chapter 3. You guys still having fun over there? Waiting.
Well, I'm still having fun. Notice a couple of typos.
Yep, excellent, excellent. Once again, I'm sorry that I'm a little snuffly and all that. I'm not feeling my best today, but I am powering through it.
And I'm going to restate it because I don't think the chat log is going to be available once we're no longer live for people to read. So we had somebody concerned about the fact that the book is only available on the Kindle, and got it pointed out to them that there's also a Kindle app available for Android, iPhone, PC, Mac, everything, and that the app is completely free even if you don't own a Kindle.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of our
everybody should be able to get the book.
Yes. Because of our exclusivity agreement with Amazon, since they are our primary publishing outlet after things release on the webpage, for right now, unfortunately, we are Kindle exclusive. We're in their KDP Select program. Now, it is paying dividends. And the fact that Amazon is starting to promote us more aggressively, we saw ourselves pop up in an Amazon newsletter the other day, which is really exciting. But because of that, yeah, we are only available on Kindle at this time. In the future, we will be eventually in the future offering actual physical. This is apparently a physical copy of the book. I talk with my hands. If you tie one of my hands behind my back, I call that a speech impediment.
Reluctant Warrior says, now if only we could make the app available for Apple II, Commodore 64, and ZX Spectrum.
Coming soon to an alternative universe.
Not finding the book on the app.
Yeah. I do not know. That's weird.
Exile is there, Dawnbreak is not.
I do not know what to tell them. Except that Amazon has an excellent customer service and support team. So
I'll tell you what, if you haven't figured it out by the end of our broadcast, we will troubleshoot it with you and figure out why you're having trouble.
Obey Bunny has a question. Silly question. Are there civilian versions of some of these technologies, like directly interfacing with the computer? All I have to say to that is stay tuned. So, as I make the crazy face. But yeah, it's there is a lot that happens in Rise. Snow is one of the first people to get these assistive technologies that Erebus is hoping to make bank off of.
Beta testing.
Beta testing.
We found Dawnbreak on the app. Cool.
Victory. Also, to respond to Reluctant Warrior about the Apple II, Commodore 64, and ZX Spectrum support. Coming soon to an alternative universe near you.
Good answer.
Yes, very good answer. It's like just hop a bus and hop 90 degrees opposite this reality. Where the 80s are still king, and I'm not just talking about my music playlist.
If you turn around, you will see that there's a door behind you in the fourth wall. If you go through that door, you will have the realization that you too are a character in one of Snowy's novels. And this will free you to move from reality to reality.
Wait. You mean that door right there?
That's it. That's the door in the fourth wall.
I must go.
I suddenly feel a great pall of fear and a great feeling of power. It's like, oh my God, everything I say has an effect. Oh my God, everything I say has an effect. Yeah.
Everyone feel fun.
Well, you just asked Busy about how that feels.
Hello, children. Okay, so before we get into any more spoiler territory, apparently this is book and this is spoiler territory. Why? I don't know. I don't know. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going with it. Going with it. Okay, I'm going to read chapter 3 before this gets any more riveting.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you, Obey Bunny. That is an interesting image.
Are you getting ready to do the time warp again, Obey Bunny? Because it's just a pelvic thrust before driving and say, and I'm not going to sing anymore because, you know, you're being tortured enough.
Please don't.
And copyright strike.
No! My entire life had become one giant copyright strike.
All right, chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Let's get this moving.
Yes, indeed. Before, yeah. It's like we're down to 9 people. It's like, you know, like 4 people are just like table flip. But yeah,
Chapter
chapter.
doesn't have to go to work.
Yeah. Paltry excuses. I will write them back. Just a moment. Chapter 3. The LRC sat perched in its hangar just before me, almost as if it had been staged as a prop. Its gleaming silver skin almost seemed to ripple as it reflected the light of the room like a mirror. She and I had been together for 10 years now. 10 years. They had tried to decommission her twice, but rank has its privileges. There were newer variants now, the Gen 2s as they called them, with the rippling back black skin that looked far too menacing for my taste. Omega 621 was all elegance, almost as if she were something from another time. I always enjoy this part, I said, as I hopped beside my assistant Jill towards the ramp. I know how much you love your ship, boss, she replied. I was the one that had to file the paperwork to save her last time, you remember. Yeah, I know, but look at her. There aren't many left anymore, all gone to scrap, except for the one in the Air and Space Museum at Jerusalem Fleet Academy, the first Higgsfield vessel commissioned by the UEA, I said, as Jill mouthed the words along with me. You aren't flying today, are you, boss? Jill asked, with a tone of nervousness. It's just a short run, and the systems are safe, I protested. Yes, you say that, but you don't get to watch your pilot drool on the console, she replied. That was a calibration issue, and it was fixed. I shot back, and she giggled. Fine. Let's get aboard and get this over with. She always liked to hide her nervousness with humor. I hopped on board and let the familiar sounds and smells wash over me. The Danube might be home, but this felt like sanctuary. Something about its close-in walls and familiar consoles made me feel safe. I still wish you'd let me fly this thing, she said, thudding heavily into the co-pilot's seat. Not my baby, I replied, initiating interface. Have a nice nap, boss, she said, as a grid appeared over my vision. Then I felt a forward pull, and suddenly it was as if I wasn't in the cockpit at all. Telemetry data and the ship's systems flooded into my brain, and from there it was as natural as breathing. There was an immediate feeling of comfort and simplicity as my mind focused completely on the task at hand. Complete the mission. Acquire data. A faint whisper ran through the edges of my consciousness, an echo of a forgotten thought. I then focused. It was time to fly the ship. Danube Actual, good morning. This is Ambassador Snow Dawkins aboard Omega 621. We are strapped in. The board is green, awaiting launch clearance. Roger that, Omega 621. Proceed to launch port A and await decompression, came the disembodied voice of control. Roger that. Moving to launch port A. With just a thought, the LRC began to move to the launch port. Once we landed on the pad, an airlock sealed behind us. Danube Control. In position. Roger, Omega 621. Decompression in progress. Launch in T-minus 20 seconds. A timer appeared over the field of my vision. The numbers glared out in a lurid red as the timer ticked down. 10 seconds. 5. Go! Flashed in green in front of me, and like a shot we were off, rocketing out the back of the ship. The steel-gray corridors of government efficiency swept by faster and faster, and then I felt a familiar chill run through my body as we cleared the last bits of the ship, and the fullness of space yawned out before me with its infinite mystery. I felt liberated. Something deep within me connected to the LRC sensed the familiar impulse. Run. The stars moved around me again. I took off like a shot, rocketing through space. A grid overlay appeared with navigation guidance, and I chased after the glowing line before me, moving through space, enjoying the rapture of being out and away from it all. Just ahead, the House Lethine was running just above the Danube information. A Mendian appeared before me on the comm screen. The Mendia Darnak extends greetings to this honored one of Earth and is awaiting you in space dock. Roger that, Lethine. We are within range to begin docking. Initiating landing procedure Omega 621. I saw and somehow felt the Mendian grappler beam wrap around the ship and cut the engines. They would take it from here. I mentally told the system to disengage from the tactical mode I had it in and found myself sitting in the cockpit. Good morning, boss. Have fun, Jill said, appearing calm and nonplussed. The Mendian ship grew ever larger in the window, and I looked down and noticed a small puddle of drool on the glass console. Calibrated, huh? She said. Shut up, I replied, as the ship glided through the docking port and landed gracefully in the hangar. Besides, we have pressing business to attend to. I finished disengaging my mind from the ship and somehow felt smaller for a moment. A wave of disorientation passed through me. I turned around as the ramp descended, catching a quick glimpse of the stars just outside my window, and felt a brief pang of longing. There was just so much freedom out there. Yes, there is snow. Welcome, shifted ones of Earth. A familiar voice sounded through the link. For the first time in days, I did not feel like I was in contested territory. Hello, Darnak. Nice to see you, too. Be down in just a moment. There was no honor delegation, not even an assistant, just my old friend of the last 10 years waiting for me. He bent down and scooped me up into a hug. My mind briefly went to sudden panic before I felt a chuckle in the link as he set me down. Ever the nervous one, Darnak said. When did your species start hugging? I replied, a bit astonished. I have been watching the tapes you sent me. It is very common among the humans. Are you not impressed with my growth, shifted one? Yes, but maybe ask next time, I said as gently as possible. It always amazed me how a creature that old could appear so innocent. Darnak bent down and regarded me curiously for a moment, looking me over. I kept my fear in check. Then he just huffed and said interesting outside of the link in his hissing English. Come, come, I have a surprise for this shifted one. He switched back to mental transmission. It helped his pronunciation. First a hug, and now a surprise? What's got into you, Darnak? Jill walked silently beside us, regarding the entire exchange with bemused interest. I have been making an effort to learn Earth customs. They are very strange, but some of it is great fun, he replied with great enthusiasm. Like hugging? I replied. Yes, it is most bizarre squeezing something without an intent to kill it. Most enthralling! My mind involuntarily shot back to the hug, and I gulped. Ha! You worry too much, Shifted One. First hugging, and now colloquialisms. This day was one for the record books. We reached the lift, and Darnak selected the Arboretum level. This was getting curious. No honor guard, no delegation. He was running completely off script. Darnak is right, Snow. You do worry too much. Jill needled me, and I flattened my ears briefly, looking up at her, my eyes narrowing. Thank you, Jill, Darnak replied. Perfect. Now they were ganging up on me. The lift slowed and stopped, and we exited to the Arboretum deck. Memories flooded back as we walked, not all of them pleasant. In violent, flashing bursts, my mind replayed Charlie's death, the anger, hurt, and frustration surging and slamming into me like black waves of regret and pain. Desperately, I stopped moving and concentrated on isolating my feelings from the link. Snow, you okay, boss? I became aware of Jill's voice and then felt her paw just behind my ears. I looked up into her eyes and suddenly felt comforted. Breathe. Easy. Is the Shifted One okay to continue? You removed yourself briefly from the link, Darnak said, concerned. Just old memories. I'll be fine, I replied, suddenly nauseous and disoriented. The Arboretum was just ahead. The doors parted and a burst of warm spring air flowed out of the room. I closed my eyes and took in the alien scents of flowers I'd never known the name of, and then opened my eyes on the bright blue grass. The Lethine possessed a fully functional biome from Nasaria. These were the last remnants of their world. Just ahead in a clearing, standing perfectly still, was a being I had never seen before. At first glance, she appeared to be wearing a black cape, and had skinny legs with strange bird-like toes and knees that had been opposite what I was used to. As we got closer, I noticed it was not a cape at all, but feathers. She was looking down, most of her face obscured behind those massive black wings, which gleamed with an iridescent sheen. Darnak, I've met him in Diamorphic before. What's going on? I asked. Ah, that would be my surprise, Shifted One. The creature looked up, withdrawing its large, long beak, clicking its tongue a few times, followed by a series of rhythmic chirps. Then her eyes settled upon me. They gleamed like fierce emeralds, staring out from the black plumage that surrounded them, sparkling with wonder and delight. There was a small circlet about her head, from which hung one silver gem that rested just above her beak and conformed to the bird-like contours of her face. As we made eye contact, I heard a whoosh as her large, multichromatic tail fanned out and pulsed. Ah, Darnak, Atrana is pleased that you have brought the human delegation as promised. She spoke perfect English. She opened her wings, and I could finally get a sense of her body and height. She was 1.5 meters tall, with a wingspan of at least 3 meters. I understood now why she wore them as a cape. They folded over each other, with her hand-like talons holding them in place. She briefly stretched them out to their full width, and I could see various points where they seemed to have joints so as to offer maximum flexibility. Atrana of Corval bows to greet you, Snow Dawkins, Ambassador of Earth. May Atrana offer this one a dance. If that is your custom, I would be happy to see it. Atrana, on behalf of the United Earth Alliance, I bear you the greetings of my government. It is my hope that on this day we will establish a long and fruitful friendship. You honor us already by learning our language. I bowed, keeping the diplomatic custom. I shot a look at Darnak. Atrana seemed to sense it. Do not be angry with Darnak, Snow Dawkins. Atrana wished to meet you informally before the official business begins in 3 of your weeks, she said, adding chirps and clicks to the end of her sentence. Atrana took the necessary time last week to learn your language. Atrana is very glad you approve. She bobbed and clicked. Now to offer you my dance. Her black iridescent wings snapped out before me at a speed almost unimaginable, and she then flattened them towards the ground, revealing amazing dexterity. They were joined down to her body. It was easy to get a sense of her anatomy because she wore almost no clothing, just bits of jewels and other shiny metals here and there, more adornments than any service to a sense of modesty. She crouched down low, and then her legs released like springs and launched her spinning into the air. Her wings flared out, and then she caught the wind and began to float down before I felt a powerful burst of air. She was actually flying. She zoomed about me, spinning and turning in an amazing feat of aerial acrobatics before landing softly in front of me, sinking down to the ground at a modified bow, her massive wings stretching out to either side. Atrana offers you this dance in the hopes that it will honor those of Earth and lead to new horizons for both of our species, she said in a rehearsed tone. Atrana, that was simply amazing and beautiful. Never have I seen anything quite like that. I'm simply stunned, I replied, desperately trying to find the words and not offend her. This Corvaldian is very glad you approve, she replied. For some reason, she did not use I, staying firmly rooted in the third person. Would you mind if we switched to the link? I find I enjoy communicating in that manner, I replied. Atrana agrees. To speak with emotion and memory is much more powerful. It is akin to the dance, she affirmed. You make me miss flying, Atrana, Darnak said. I have seen many stars since I last felt the wings of the Krasnogor. I felt a brief pang of sadness flow from him. Maybe one day Darnak will fly with the wings of a Corvaldian, she replied. Perhaps it would be an honor, he said. Atrana agrees.
You pixelated on that last line.
Perhaps it would be an honor, he replied. Atrana agrees.
Not that one, the one before that.
Ah! The line before that line before that line. Maybe one day Darnak will fly with the wings of a Corvaldian, she replied. Perhaps it would be an honor, he said. Atrana agrees. I am very eager to learn of your people, Atrana. Tell me, how long have you been in contact with the Mendians? I said, curious. Let me see. She clicked and chirped a few times. It was many seasons ago, 400 of your years. 400 years? That is quite an impressive number. Your race must be intrepid explorers. The Corvaldians are not this. The Corvaldians remain on Corval. She nodded and clicked emphatically. Wait, you don't have ships or colonies? How did you come to know the Mendians? The Mendians came to the Corvaldians. Same thing, some things Corvaldians take. Shiny shifting tech and medicines, but some things Corvaldians wish to do for Corvaldia. I think I can help, Snow. The Corvaldians do not have the level of technology that those of Earth have. They are still trying to come to grips with what you call quantum physics. Still, they are much advanced in other ways. It is the hope of the Mendian Council that your races will grow closer and assist one another. Darnak speaks great truth. Atrana is pleased. Well put! Well put! She hopped and bobbed emphatically the more excited she got. So this is why you did not meet us at the gate, I said, enthralled. Snow Dawkins is wise, but it was not just for introductions that Atrana has requested the honor of meeting you this day. Yes, how can I help? Atrana is pleased at the offer of assistance. This Corvaldian was monitoring what you call a press conference. It seems to be great fun and of great challenge, with much shiny. Atrana wishes to meet the press. Oh, shit, I said, as a monstrous headache emerged from cerebral darkness and seized upon me. It was going to be a long day. Chapter. And now you have the first 3 chapters. Thank you. Thank you. Your checks are in the mail.
Email.
Your checks are in the email. I'm going to have to remember that one.
Atrana wants to meet the press.
Alice Bolter is going to have
possibly go wrong.
To spoil a line later on. Alice Bolter is going to have hot wings for dinner.
uh,
Oh, the chat's
cats
blowing
protect
up.
the bird.
Most shiny, most bright.
Man, Case Orwig, if only you knew.
Etrana is my innocent. She is a fun character to write.
Mm-hmm.
The bird needs to be protected. The bird is a sweetheart.
Yes.
I adore Atrana, and so does everybody else.
Mm-hmm. She's
You know what
a
that
sweetheart.
means.
No, No, I know what you're doing. No.
Oh, we know you well.
This
The bird
is the word.
And that word is shiny.
Atrana is most shiny. Atrana gleams.
But the humans are dim. Most dim. Sunshine.
So there's the first 3 chapters of Rise of the Forgotten, and
Mhm.
you'll all have to wait for the opportunity to read the rest of it.
If you want to continue with the story, please continue. Please consider subscribing at our Patreon. For just $2 a month, you can have access to the entire run. If you want to wait, or if you can't do that, which is, I understand, times are hard for all of us right now, it will be available on Amazon by June. Oh, look, somebody thinks I'm going to kill Atrana. I wouldn't do
See,
that.
that's my fear.
See, when have I ever killed? Never mind.
Casey is already emotionally invested in Atrana. Good luck.
I would like to apologize for my congestion terribleness.
I mean, you do have a habit of killing off characters that everybody loves. I mean, you know, we've.
I've gotten better at that. I'll have you know, I've gotten better at that. And once again,
but
huh?
On the flip side, though, you're not so good at killing off the characters that everybody hates.
No, I'm not. Because without the villain, where would we be, really?
Just more villains, even worse than the last.
I mean, every writer has to have an editor, right? Every hero has to have a villain. It's, you know, the ever opposing forces.
I'm happy to be the villain.
My typos run in fear of you. And so do I, depending on what I've just done in the manuscript.
Yes, well, I suppose, given the fact that there's 4 different universes, it's not a spoiler saying that there are a few characters in books that are far from published that are alive because I told you not to kill them.
Yes. Yes, they might not exactly be whole, but they are alive. Hey, what's drama without a little bit of pain, right?
There's a couple others that I offered up as a sacrifice. Don't kill that one, kill this one.
Yes. On some worlds, Snowy is a dark god. A nightmare god, if you will. Ghost of the Nightmare Gods coming this fall, by the way.
Yep.
Hmm.
And
Very much looking forward to that reaching the website.
this one is, yeah.
That's gonna be super exciting.
I'm also kind of nervous because, like I said, it's my darkest work yet. So I'm like a little bit like, oh God, you know.
Anyway, how long have we been live?
I've been alive for
man.
about 38 years.
I'm sorry.
1 hour 38 minutes. This is our longest live stream yet. We have 11
Wow.
people. Let's see here. We're getting some questions though in the live stream, so let's see.
We have 11 people who haven't abandoned us yet.
That's the hope, Michelle. They're hoping that the humans will help the Corvaldians where they lack, and the Corvaldians will help the humans where they lack. As you may have been able to glean from the story, things do not exactly go well in terms of tension at this point in the story for the Mendeans and Earth. So that's kind of where we are there.
No, that's because it's Earth, and that's how humans are.
Someone isn't biased.
Not at all.
Nah.
Well, all right, guys. I'm going to open the floor for any more questions, and if we don't get any in about a minute or two, I guess we'll go ahead and close this out for today. Have you guys had fun?
I've certainly had fun. I hope everybody else did too, given the fact that somebody just joined us. Hi, person who just joined us. We are just closing up and waiting to see if anybody has any questions before we leave.
Better late than never.
9 people who are not us, who have not abandoned us, so clearly they were enjoying themselves, or they would have bailed a long time ago.
One way or another, they were enjoying themselves.
Some of them at our expense, some of them just enjoying the story.
The kobold, I think we're talking Corval. Minor correction. It's Corvaldia and Corval. There we go. Hey guys, guess what? I can do editing too.
Whoa!
Except that it's Corval and Corvaldians.
Oh yes, that's all right.
Because we dispensed with Corvaldia. Because I can do editing and had to because in some instances the planet was Corval and in others it was Corvaldia, and now we've mostly got a uniform. I actually noticed 2 more where it was incorrect while you were reading it.
Maya, you have a job to do.
I was about to say you
also misspelled Corvaldian.
Oh God. Well, that's embarrassing.
That's why you have us.
Yes. And Speedy.
And yes, and Speedy. Definitely.
And we've got Maya doing one more read through of Rise for us and making sure we didn't miss anything, because fresh eyes. So any instances that you see of Corvaldia need to be Corval.
So just flag those if you see them, guys. All of the people that are my $2 Patreon that have the early access to the work, it releases serially every Sunday and Wednesday. We have a comment system where the comments only come to me. I'm the only one that ever sees them. And so we do that so that we can get an extra level of editing. So if you guys ever see a typo in my work, which that will happen, I'm just going to prepare you now. Just let me know about it, and we'll get it fixed, and that'll make it into the final edition. With Dawnbreak, our top commenter, Asita Azura, did so much good work at finding stuff that we missed that she actually got mentioned in the acknowledgement section. And that's kind of a special thank you and a reward to our top commenters every time. So everything, your involvement matters. at Studio Prey. Your presence there matters as a patron, as a visitor, as a reader, and we'll continue doing what we can to show our support, gratitude, and appreciation for you being
We
there.
also pay a lot of attention to those comments. If people want to know more about something that they're reading, something really piques their interest, our patrons are liable to find topics that interest them mentioned in future books.
Yeah. Etrana does mention that they have shift tech, but no, Corvoldians are a bird race that can fly. They're a very interesting group. And we can, and you can find out more starting Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on Sunday, the first 3 chapters I just read will release. The first 3 are free. Excuse me for a moment, my eye is killing me. But then by Wednesday, we should be getting into chapter 4. So, all right.
So I think it's about time to wrap it up. Thank you all for coming and sticking with us for an hour and a half, and I hope you enjoyed the circus.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, thank you all for coming.
Maya, thank you for being here. Kat, thank you for being here as always. Thank you, I want to say personally, to all of our watchers. Thank you for your patience with me. And thank you for your support. We'll keep doing what we can to give you guys the quality content that you definitely deserve. Much shiny!
This
I'll
leaves...
have a lovely day, and we'll see you again next month.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Spring at last!
Bye.